Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from chapter 3rd, verse number 19 of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Tasmad asaktah satatam karyam mam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma parmapanoti purushaha. तस्मादसक्तः सततं कार्यं कर्म समाचर असक्तो हि आचरन् कर्म परं परम आपनोति पुरुषः तस्मादसक्तः सततं कार्यं कर्म समाचर असक्तो हि आचरन् कर्म परम आपनोति पुरुषः तस्मात् therefore asakta without attachment satatam constantly, karyam as duty, karma work, samachara perform, asaktaha unattached, he certainly, acharan performing, karma work, param the supreme, apanoti achieves, purushaha amen. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Is there no further detail to this? Just a sec. Purport is missing, so. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the Supreme is the personality of Godhead for the devotees and liberation for the impersonalist. A person, therefore, acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness under proper guidance and without attachment to the result of the work is certainly making progress toward the supreme goal of life. Arjuna is told that he should fight in the battle of Kurukshetra for the interest of Krishna because Krishna wanted him to fight. To be a good man or a non-violent man is a personal attachment, but to act on behalf of the Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. That is perfect action of the highest degree, recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Vedic rituals like prescribed sacrifices are performed for purification of impious activities that were performed in the field of sense gratification. But action in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to the reactions of good or evil work. A Krishna conscious person has no attachment for the result, but act on behalf of Krishna alone. He engages in all kinds of activities, but is completely unattached.
Our world is shattered. We have simply lost the word. No family should go through what we are going through. Once again, thank you for everyone coming and showing your support to my sister.
Okay, I think somebody's microphone is unmute right now.
A Greenwich Council, she said the case was.
I'm sincerely requesting for everybody to kindly keep on mute so that we don't create any disturbance for anybody else. Thank you very much. So, tasmadasaktah satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Before we start with text 19 description, I'll just go through Praniti prayers. Om Agyanam Timirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishbhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvaevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. Now, this is chapter 3 entitled Karma Yoga. And in this chapter, Lord Krishna is now emphasizing upon how one should act. And as the chapter develops and the discussion between Arjun and Krishna progresses, gradually Krishna is trying to build up a yoga ladder for everybody to understand. And what do we understand by this yoga ladder? So in previous verses, in verse number 14, Krishna mentioned Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad annasambhavaha yagnad bhavati parjanyo yagna karma samudbhavaha. Krishna is saying that all living bodies are subsisting on the food grains which are produced from rains. And these rains, they are produced by sacrifices. And sacrifices, they are produced of the prescribed duties. So, Krishna is emphasizing upon the point that we all have some prescribed duties. Now, one would not understand what do you mean by prescribed duties. And it's too early in Gita that Krishna is going to elaborate it. But in chapter 18, Krishna is going to elaborate it in a great detail. And he mentions there that there are prescribed duties. In verse number 44 through, rather in verse number 41 through to 44, Krishna describes that there is no living being that has no work to do. Everybody has to do something or the other, because the nature of the soul is being active. This is a very moot point. The nature of the soul is being active. It cannot stay inactive. Many people artificially force inactiveness upon themselves on the name of meditation, which has been completely denied by Lord Krishna as mithyacharis or somebody who is trying to be a pretender. You cannot be inactive. So one has to act. Now, how will one would act? One would act according to the nature he's acquired, or the soul has acquired from the three modes of material nature, which is goodness, um, passion, and ignorance. Now, according to those acquisition of nature, one would have become either a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra. So these are four divisions of society, and they are scientific in the sense that they are well defined, and most or everybody would fit into these four varnas, which is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaisyas, and Sudras. And the activities of these four are also defined by Krishna. He mentions that peacefulness, self control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, religiousness, these are all the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Now, if you ask such a person, you go and fight the war, he would be least interested because he can't do that because of his own nature. You go and kill violence, he wouldn't be able to get into a situation where he has to be violent about anything. Or he would be very tolerant. Others may not be able to tolerate a situation and they will become anxious, but he would tolerate it. He would be truthful. So he can't get into an occupation which involves telling lies. Whereas for a Kshatriya, it is defined that his qualities are heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, very courageous, and also generous. And he has got leadership, leadership to lead people, lead nations, lead society. And these are natural qualities of work for Kshatriyas. Now, these Kshatriyas or administrators were generally the kings. They were protecting the society and they were working under the guidance of the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas were considered to be the head of the society, giving intelligence because they were selfless and they were completely situated in knowledge of the Vedic Dharma or Sanatan Dharma. They were able to guide without any selfish motives. They were able to give neutral guidance to whomsoever would approach him. Therefore, you would see that in the times when they were kings, they will have a lot of Brahmin priests guiding them through to how to rule and what actions to take and what decisions to be made in perplexed situations, so that they don't go adharmak, they don't go against the Vedic injunctions. So however, Kshatriyas, if left on their own, because they are so powerful and because they are so resourceful and because they would do whatever they want to, if they work independent of Brahmanas, they would create havoc in the society and they'll make society topsy-turvy by their powers and they'll become adharmic and entire society, they will lead them into a direction which is not meant to for the human society. And the third class is the Vaisya Dharma. Now, these are those who are cultivating or are in a profession of businesses, farming. Krishna has mentioned in particular for Vaisyas, farming, which means agrarian culture, not the factory culture that we have today, and the technology culture, rather farming, simple life with cow protection, and business, which means trading, barter, or trading, wherein one may be allowed or one may be required to speak some lies. For example, I'm not making any profit, although he must be making profit. Prabhupada says that he must, therefore, must lie, and that is allowed to make some profit. And similarly, for Shudras, they kind of labor and they serve the other three classes, and there are such people. And from spiritual platform, all the Varnas are same. Reason being that if one is occupied in these Varnas, they will eventually be able to become self-realized. Hence, the platform of Varnashram system is given to the human society. Now, this Varnashram, ashram is also Brahmachari ashram, Grahastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, Sannyas ashram. So there are kind of two rails. One rail is talking about occupational duty. The other rail is talking about how you are gradually progressing from Grahastha ashram to Sannyas ashram and pursuing the goal of life. Now, the rung of the yoga ladder is also defined now by Krishna. Not everybody is going to be a self-realized person. Therefore, Vedas has also given provisions. If somebody, although Shastra is saying that you become detached and you sacrifice everything for Lord Krishna, for Lord Vishnu, because understanding that he is the all in all and he is the Bhoktaram Yagitapasam, but still, not everybody can do it. So what is the provision for them? Therefore, Vedas has created this whole system of what we call as karma kand. So one is very selfish, one wants to gratify the senses and get as much as enjoyment from this world, but not frivolously, according to the injunctions of the Vedas. So he will reach out and he will do sacrifices. And by doing so and reaching out to do some sacrifices to please demigods, he would get an understanding that he's not all in all. He's not completely independent. He's dependent upon some higher authority. And when he goes to, once he reaches out for sacrifices, he will hear some shastra. He will hear from priests. He will hear about demigods who are powerful beings who also get sanctioned their powers from Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, and eventually he would get what he wants. And in due course of time, he would progress this to the next step. That why just I want things of this world in this sphere, might as well I would like to have something in the next life. Why should I not aspire for going to Swargaloka and enjoy the better facilities? Why should I live only for 100 years? And why not 10,000 years? And the life of no bodily pains and a beautiful life with all kinds of sense gratification, nice, beautiful men, women living with each other and enjoying the food, the facilities far beyond on the planet Earth. And like that, they will develop this faith in something what is called as the next life. Hence, they will also come to reality with themselves that they are not this body and they are the soul. And once they come to this understanding, they'll continue to hear from the priests, from the Vedas, and eventually they will also understand that all that what their sacrifices are being done, they are eventually for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Once they get this understanding, they will also hear that how Indra is perplexed, how Indra is also in anxiety, how Lord Brahma is also in anxiety, and how this death, birth, old age, and disease is not going to leave you anywhere. And it will chase you wherever you are in this material world. And when they get this understanding, then they will start to come to a platform of what is called as Jnana Khand. So there's a Karma Khand or Karma Yoga. By thinking that I'm doing this work or sacrifices only to gain something which is temporary, which is transient, and it has no permanency. Why not work towards something eternal, something permanent? And that's when they'll come to the stage of karma yoga, where they will start to feel either they will become um, uh, uh, they will become attached karma yogis, which means that they have attachment to the fruits, which is called sakam karma yoga, or they will become nishkam karma yogi. Now, nishkam karma yogi will be much later stage. Initially, it will be always sakam karma yogi, that they want the fruits of their actions to be given to them, although it would be done gradually from sakam karma yoga. They'll progress into Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is as good as performing devotional service to the Lord, having no attachment to the fruits of their work. And that is what this verse is saying in today's verse. Therefore, without being attached to the fruit of activities, one should act as a matter of duty by performing the work without attachment, one attains the supreme. Why would one attain the supreme without having attachment to the work? So the Shastras are explaining that because they are submitting themselves to a Vedic process, to a process which is defined by Krishna himself. Vedeshcha sarver ahameva Vedanta krit ved vid eva cha aham. Eventually, they will come to realization of Krishna by following this process of Veda. And Vedic process is definitely given by Krishna himself. So by submitting themselves to the Vedic karma kand process, eventually they will reach to a position of Nishkama Karma Yoga, which means I'm not attached anymore to the fruits of my activities, and I'm only going to do certain activities because they are meant to be done. Because I cannot stay inactive in any situation. My soul has to work, has to be active all the time. Just because of that, one would come to the platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga, and then they will have no desire to go to Swarga Loka or to explore more of the sense gratification in this material life. Now, in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is also mentioned Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. And this verse is quoted by Srila Prabhupada, left, center, right, most of the places. Why? Because he's trying to give this particular message that in your endeavor, in the devotional path, a little advancement can protect you from the most dangerous type of fear. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya. Dharmasya means occupational duty. Swalpam means little, a little. Apasya dharmasya. Trayate. Trayate. It will release you. Mahato bhayat. From the greatest danger of the old birth, death, old age, and disease. So, in that particular verse, text purport, Srila Prabhupada has also given us insight into verse of Srimad Bhagavatam from Canto 5 and 17th verse. So it's, Canto 1, chapter 5 and 17th verse. And there it is mentioned, Tyaktva swadharma charanam bhujam hare bhajanan apakwatapate tato yadi yatrukva va bhadram abhudamushyakim kovartha apto abhajatam swadharmataha. One who has forsaken his material occupation to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometime fall down while in an immature stage. Yet, there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duty, does not gain anything. Now, in the understanding where we were discussing Sakam Karma Yoga and Nishkam Karma Yoga, somebody who is Sakam Karma Yoga and he is doing it just for the sake of getting the fruits of his results. That is one type of a person. But other person who is Sakam Karma Yoga, but he is doing this activity knowing that I'm going to do this to please please Lord Vishnu, then there's a gulf of a difference between these two. Because although they both are attached to the result, they both want the result, but one has a clear understanding the final goal, where Krishna is mentioned, Vedeshta sarved aham vedyo vedanta krit ved vid eva cha aham. From Vedas, I am to be known. And that goal is very clear. And because that karma is done to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, the resultant action, because a devotional service now, because a devotional service, therefore, it is permanent in nature, it's eternal. Because being done for the eternal being, therefore, the results are eternal. And there's no loss. There's no unsuccess in that. There's always a success. And he is saved from the greatest fear of birth, old age, death, and disease. So there are examples given. Example of Bharat Maharaj is given. He failed actually. He failed. He got in the body of a deer. what are we, what the minimum that one can think of, that at least they will get human life? Because it is mentioned that when you perform devotional service, you will get opportunity to be born either in a very aristocratic family, cultured family, Brahminical family, and you can pursue your goals. You will be, or you will be born in a very wealthy family where you don't have to work for your means, for your ends, and you can somehow or the other continue to perform your devotional service. But look at Bharat Maharaj. He got neither of these. All he got was a body of a stag when he died. And what happened to him? In the next birth, after the body of, but he was fortunate to remember everything in the body of a stag. And next birth, he then took a birth in a pious family as a Brahmin. And then in that particular birth, he appeared as a completely self-realized soul, and he abstained from any kind of activities which was not a devotional service. Similarly, example is given of Chitraketu, who fell down due to his offenses to Mother Parvati. Appeared to be like offense to Mother Parvati. And eventually, what happened? He appeared as a Vritasura, and he also achieved liberation by being killed by Indra. And he was such a devotee of the Lord that with Indra, he was giving him the knowledge that, oh Indra, why are you not killing me from the Vajra? You kill me from this Vajra that you have obtained from the Dadichi Rishi, and because it is meant to kill me, I will be immediately going to embrace my sweet Lord. I'll be liberated from this body. But you, Indra, do not have enough faith in this Vajra that you're not hurling it on me. You are still feeling, you're so attached to your material desires. So this was a example of a Sakam Bhakta Yoga and a Nishkam Bhakta Yoga, Bhakti. And Indra is acting as a Sakam Bhakta, and Vritasur was acting as a Nishkam Bhakta and pure devotee of the Lord. And when pure devotee of the Lord speaks, they speak like Lord Krishna himself, because they have nothing else in their heart but love for Krishna. And therefore, we see that the power of devotional services is far, far, far more than anything else, any kind of other worships. Similarly, in the example of Ajamil, we see that how he fell off the path of piety, and ultimately, when he was dying, he called for Narayan, and all the Vishnuduts appeared and saved him from the clutches of Yamadutas, and eventually he was given an opportunity to come back to life and perform this entire worship again, the process of devotional service. So this way, we see that how devotional service is so powerful. So in that connection, and in the connection of Varnashram system, Srila Prabhupada would often quote this verse: Varnashrama acharavata purushena paraha puman Vishnur aradhayate pantha nanyat tat doshakaranam. So this is a verse from Vishnu Puran 3.8.9, and Srila Prabhupada has quoted it at various places. And this verse is also appearing in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Let me see if I have a reference to that. Okay, maybe not here, but in this verse, see, Varnashram system is what? This is prescribed duties, and this is what in this particular text of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying that you perform your prescribed duties. So here it is mentioned, Varnashramacharvata, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas. So this is such a necessity for human society. Otherwise, they will act sinfully. They will act, that action is called vikarma. Most of the modern society today, what are they doing? Vikarma. They're killing cows and selling them in the name of, uh, such multinational corporation companies all over the world, killing hundreds and hundreds of cows and all kinds of animals. And they don't even want to name them the way they are: goats, chickens, and horses, buffaloes, cows, ducks. Name any animal, and they would just say it differently: ham, or mutton, or chicken, beef. So they don't relate to these animals, and they call out whatever names they want to call out for the satisfaction of the tongue. Such heinous activity, such sinful activity, vikarma. There's no mention of Vedas. There's no mention of prescriptions, regulations. I mean, there's no understanding of any of these, and people are going on and on doing their sinful activities, not realizing where are they ending. Srila Prabhupada says that according to the direction of modern society, men think they can advance in civilization by manipulating matter to build a skyscraper, big roads, automobile, and so on. But such a civilization is called materialistic because its people don't know the goal of life. The goal of life, which is to reach Vishnu. At least in Vedic ladder, one gets gradually this understanding that what is the goal of life. But here, there is no goal of life. So how would one ever reach to this understanding? Hence, any society which is bereft of one ashram system is called as two-legged animal society. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Yah Shastra Vidhim Ussarjya Vartate Kamakaratah Na Sa Siddhim Avapanoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. What is he saying? Bhagavatam is saying, this is Bhagavad Gita, verse 23rd of chapter 16. Yah Shastra Vidhim Utsarjya Vartate Kamakaratah Na Sa Siddhim Avapanoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. One who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. And this is exactly the result of this misguided anti-Vedic civilization, anti-Vedic society. Is not following any varna, not following any ashrams. All they will get is just unhappiness and nothing more. And this is what we can see today. Even there's so much of success, but people are not satisfied with him. How much sex can they do? How much enjoyment can they have through their limited senses? How much drugs they can take? Ultimately, in the want of more, just like that insect who goes into the light and burns himself, they take so much overdoses of drugs that they die, lose their essence of life, lose their sense of living. What is the point in such a misguided civilization? So Krishna is directing us that you follow certain injunctions. And by following those injunctions, you perform your occupational duty. Well, highest of that performance of occupational duty is that you stay detached from the results of the activities. But how would you do that? How would you stay detached? So Krishna is giving the formula. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyadhatma chetasa nirasar nirmamo bhutva yuddhasva vigata jwaraha. In same chapter on verse number 30th, Krishna is going to say, O Arjun, therefore surrender all your work unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy. Just fight for me. Now, this is amazing. This is so amazing how this formula works for living beings. It's very difficult because we are attached to matter. We are attached to the subtle results of the matter. Now, these subtle results come in the form of money, fame, glory, and so much of glorification that comes through with our actions, and we are desirous of all of that. It's temporary, we know it, but still we get completely enamored by these results, and there's no question of being completely detached, you see. But Krishna is saying, when you are in knowledge of me, and when you offer that work to me, how would you offer that work to me? You offer the result of that work to me first. Yat karoshi yad ashnasi yad juhasi tadashi yat tapassat kaunteya tat kurushmad arpanam. You give the results of every activity to me, and then eventually you will start just acting for me. And by doing that, you will, and then you will have no claim to proprietorship, that I own this. This is my work, this is my result. It will not be like that. You will be doing this work because my master, my spiritual master wants me to do it, because devotees wants me to do it, because Krishna wants me to do it through the Guru Parampara. You will be just doing it as a sense of duty. And when you do that, at that point of time, you will have no claim to proprietorship. You will say, my Guru Maharaj has made me do this, and therefore this name, fame, glory goes to my Guru Maharaj, my senior devotees, my acharyas, my Vaishnavas. And all the result of this work is also coming because of their blessings, their empowerment. So all this, the fiction of the mind will go away by this sense of dutifulness. So there's another very beautiful verse which is quoted in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulasya varjanam rakshishyati vishwaso gopatatve varnam tatha atmanikshepa karpanye sadvidha sharanagati. So Chaitanya Chaitamrita is describing about sharanagati, about surrender, and how would one surrender. So it gives six divisions of surrender are explained here. 6 divisions. Pratikulasya varjanam. This is how a devotee behaves. And this is the highest platform. This is the highest platform. Even though devotees attached to karma, devotees attached to the fruits, devotees attached to everything, but because he is doing it understanding that this activity will please Krishna. Why so? Because my Guru, my Acharyas, Shastras are saying that, so I'll do it. But he's attached, so be it. But because it is a devotional service, it will gradually slacken the knots of attachment with the material nature. So how will he act? So this is how he'll act. This is how he will act. Anukulasya sankalpaha. Things which are favorable, anukul. He will do it. He will accept it. Of anything that assists devotional service, he will accept it. He will never say no to a devotional service. He will say yes to the chanting. He will say yes to Srimad Bhagavatam. He will say yes to any service in the temple. He will say yes to book distribution. He will say yes to a place and a job which is conducive for Krishna consciousness. He will say yes to prasadam. And pratikulasya varjanam. He will say anything that hinders his devotional service, he will completely reject it. He will not go and live in a place where there's no association of devotees. He will not go and do a job where he's completely baffled of every time and effort and everything is given away, and he has no time for performing his devotional service. And although he may be in a difficult situation, if he has to accept it, he will make sure that the results of that particular activity is offered to Krishna in one way or the other. Either taking care of his devotee children, devotee wife, giving that money out to charity, making prasadam and distributing it, buying books, donating it, some way or the other. He will continuously in thoughts of pleasing Krishna and purifying his activities. Pratikulasya varjam. This is the golden formula that devotee has. Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulasya varjanam. Like that, he will also have full conviction that Krishna will protect me. Krishna will completely protect me at all time. In this regard, in a conversation, there's a conversation which Srila Prabhupada is saying. I'll just read through this beautiful lines from Srila Prabhupada. Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulyam vivarjanam. So Krishna, he's explaining the meaning of surrender. And he's also talking about Bhakti Vinod Thakur here. So this is one of the items of Sharanagati. Surrender means unless one is convinced that Krishna will give me protection. So how he can surrender? There is no question of surrender. Avashya rakshibe Krishna vivashya palana. Bhakti Vinod Thakur has said to be firmly convinced, then Krishna will give me all protection. Therefore, surrender is then perfect. Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulyam vivarjanam. Surrender means one should simply accept favorable service to Krishna and reject anything which is unfavorable. And then next is avashya Krishna vishwasa palana, and to be firmly convinced that Krishna will give me all protection. Therefore, instead of trying to protect myself, a devotee should always remain dependent on Krishna. And that is Sharanagati. Many times people ask this question, how do I surrender? What is surrender? Here is the golden formula of surrender. That Krishna will protect me in every situation. Avashya rakshibe Krishna vishwasa palan. Anukulasya sankalpa pratikulyam varjanam. Then is so in the verse of that appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulasya varjanam rakshishyati vishwaso. You have this vishwas, or you have this conviction, strong conviction that Krishna will protect. Raksha, rakshyati. He will protect me. He will protect me. Gopat tatve varanam tatha. In being the guardian, like the father or husband, master or maintainer, he will always protect me. And this is the kind of surrender that can happen, a change in the consciousness. That will happen by the change in the consciousness. Therefore, so if we look at this verse today, it may look very difficult. It may look very lofty. That how can one surrender? How can one act without having attachment to the results? But this is how gradually, it's a gradual process. It's not going to happen in a day. It will happen over the years. It can happen in a moment, depending upon the surrender. But for normal conditioned soul, one goes to the yoga ladder and comes to this understanding. Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavan mam prapatyante vasudev sarmam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha. And such Mahan Atmas, such great Vaishnavas are very rare. Krishna himself is saying that who will come to really surrender themselves, who will come to this stage where they will be dependent on Krishna, where they will be detached. The moment they are dependent on Krishna, what will happen? Automatically, they will be detached from any of their endeavors and their results, because they know that they are not doing it. They are completely dependent on Krishna. Child will never be feeling proud, because he knows that it's my parents who are doing everything for me. Similarly, one knows that Krishna is doing everything, then how will he be proud? There's no question of being proud. There's no question of being attached. And that conviction that Krishna is there to protect me, the moment we have this sense that I am protected, then all the fears of this world will go away. Nothing like Prahlad Maharaj experienced fearlessness. Any devotee who would reach to that platform would experience this fearlessness. Abhay Charana Ravinda. And that was the name of Srila Prabhupada. Completely fearlessness. Okay, so with this, I would conclude today's verse and invite comments or any question that we may have in this assembly. There are 30 participants today, including
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for wonderful class, Prabhuji. I think I'm I'm going to ask this same question. Maybe so many times you have been asked, I think. So I'm sorry for that. Uh, you said that I think most of our acharyas and also you said the same thing. We have to do this devotional service for the pleasure of our spiritual master or pleasure of our acharyas, pleasure of other Vaishnavas and pleasure to Krishna. But currently I'm doing in the expecting that I'll get the chance to go back to Godhead or I'll get the liberation or something. I'm expecting that, right? I'm not more senior. I'm still well, I'm doing for 3 years, but I still feel like I'm still junior. So could you please guide me? How can I move my intention that I'm doing for the liberation? Because Prabhupada said, because Acharya said that if I do all this, I get the liberation. From that mood, though, I'm doing this pleasure to Srila Prabhupada, pleasure to all the great Vaishnavas who's teaching me. So how can I change my mood to that?
Wonderful
Thank
question.
you.
Thank you very much for Venkat Prabhu for asking that wonderful question. So let's see, what is the highest devotee expecting? Who are the highest devotees or purest devotees? If we look in Shastras is describing the denizens or the residents of Vrindavan Dham to be the highest devotees. What are their expectations? And we were reading some verses the other day. Srimati Radharani's appearance day was there. What is the expectation of Srimati Radharani and all the gopis who are at the highest platform of devotion? Their expectation is that by doing their action that they are doing, they are expecting pleasure to Krishna. That is the ultimate pleasure that they are seeking. That somehow Krishna will be very happy. Krishna will be very pleased. Krishna will be very charmed. Krishna will become entertained. They're putting makeup on their body because not that they want to look beautiful, but it will give pleasure to Krishna's eyes. It's very genuine emotion in their heart, and that is the ultimate motivator in their heart. For us, I remember email came from His Holiness Bhaktichar Maharaj when I asked him some questions. He said to me that all I desire from you is to become a pure devotee of the Lord. Um, that is a goal, that you become a pure devotee of the Lord. Now, in becoming a pure devotee of the Lord, if there is a result, that is that you may have to go back to Godhead, or you may have to stay back in the material world and preach the glories of the Lord, or wherever or whatever. Once one becomes pure devotee, what does this mean? It simply means that you become completely free from the clutches of material modes of nature. No more lust will arise in your heart, because lust only arises when soul comes in contact with the mode of passion. Kama esha krodha esha rajogur samadbhava mashano mahapapma vidyanamiha veranam. That lust will not arise in the heart. When the lust does not arise, you will not become kamuk. You will not become lusty. Therefore, all you will have in your heart will be selfless love for God. Now, in that selfless love of God, you desire to go back to Godhead, you desire to stay here. They're all same because it will be ultimately pleasing to Krishna. So there is no offense in thinking that I would expect myself to go to back to Godhead. That's fine. Huh? Because ultimately that is what Krishna also desires, for us to come back to him. There is no problem. But the problem is when I desire that by chanting holy names of the Lord, I will I gain some knowledge, and by disseminating that knowledge, I become powerful, I become famous as myself, not as devotee of Krishna, but I'll establish my own identity. People will come and praise me. Yeah? Then that is not right. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va kam esh, jagadish kam ek. The Lord Chaitanya is praying like that. So those material desires, they are not good. They are to be, one should feel guilty about if those desires are coming in the heart, and they'll keep coming. One would not act on that. But the desires of going back to Godhead, desire of serving the Lord, desire of continuously performing devotional service, what will you do when you go back to Godhead? You will be simply chanting, you will be doing devotional service, which will be pleasing to the Lord. And so, in that sense, it's not bad, because that's very pure actually. That's highest goal of life. That's highest goal of life. And by doing so, if we become pure and if we can attract more souls to the service of the Lord because he desires that, that is also very, very nice. And for that reason, pure devotee can go anywhere, not just to Goloka Vrindavan, also to planet Earth, also to other planets, anywhere where the service is, because then he would not feel separation from the Lord. It's not a physical platform of going back to Godhead. It is not only a physical loka where one would go and be with his physical body. It is a state of consciousness that one would feel no separation from the Lord, and one would feel only happiness in performing the devotional service of the Lord. He will not feel any happiness in performing material activities. He will have no hope of getting any enjoyment out of this material world. He would not think that now let me extract a bit more juice out of this material energy. No, he would have given up all his hopes completely. Only hope will be that only by serving the lotus feet of Krishna and devotees, I'll be feeling some joy, and that joy will come as a byproduct of serving these devotees. In that consciousness, whether he is in Goloka Dham, whether he is in any other hellish planets, nothing can then change his devotion to the Lord. Nothing can change that consciousness to the Lord. And therefore, there's no offense in design in thinking of what you're thinking. It's absolutely fine. I hope I have answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, please. There's a request. Can I ask a question on a practical note? Please ask the question. A person new to wanting to give up leather products, but if products are very expensive, then should they sell off? Also, later, if we come unknowingly in contact with such goods, there should be practical way out. So in this respect, I will share a little story. Also, later, if we come unknowingly in contact with such goods, what should be a practical way out? Okay. So I was a student long time ago. I was studying in England, and I was looking for work permit to work for a company so that I can stay back. And I was new to Krishna consciousness. This is 1999, 2000. Uh, and then I also came in touch with my spiritual master that time. I wasn't initiated, but in my heart, I felt His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj was very kindly, lovingly embraced me at Soul Temple. And he kindly gave me his email ID to communicate with him. So I started looking for job, and I happened to come in touch with this particular company who were into leather business. It was my naivety that I didn't know that leather means real animal skin. I felt leather must be another substance. And when I started to work, this man who was from Pakistan background, he told me that he's willing to give me a work permit, he's willing to give me nice Mercedes and a very nice package. All I have to do is I have to go to Europe and do leather business. So I asked details, and then he said that you have to do raw skin business in Europe. I said, what do you mean raw skin? And then he explained me that all these cows are killed in Pakistan, and they bring raw skin of cows into Europe, and then they sell it all over Europe. So when he said that, I was getting this fear and this whole adrenaline flowing through my back. Where am I stuck? And I straight away wrote to my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, that this is what I am stuck into. What should I do? Because to live in England, I must also get work permit. And Maharaj straight away wrote back saying that, get out of this situation. Krishna will provide you a lot of opportunities. Just get out of this situation right now. So I worked for him for 5 days, and sixth day I never turned up to that place. And then he kept chasing me. And afterwards I told him, look, it's against the spiritual injunctions and beliefs that I follow. Sorry, I cannot work for you. And soon after I got a job, which was very nice and different. And so the moral of the story is that Bhakti Charu Maharaj said that you just don't work in that place, because just working for that place, you will create so much of karmic reaction that you'll have to continuously suffer, because anybody who's killing, anybody who is butchering, anybody who's cooking, anybody who is selling, all of them gets equal karmic reaction. Now, what should we do? So from that day onwards, I don't remember wearing anything which is leather, because it's made of animal skin, which are brutally killed. So how do we still perform our life? So then I started to wear shoes which were non-leather shoes, and I'll somehow or other find very good shoes to support me. And one time I bought very nice shoes, very expensive shoes from a store in India. Zara has just opened there. So I bought a pair of shoes. I was working for a company in a fashion industry, so I had to be presented myself in some way that you still look like from one of the, one from the group, one from the clan. So the guy told me it's not leather, and I wore it. After 2-3 years, somebody told me it is leather. And when I looked at it, I just gave it up then and there, because I remembered the message from Guru Maharaj, and I was feeling so guilty about what have I done. I got blinded into enamored by by that pair of shoe, and I created some karmic reaction. So there's no what can you do? The mistake has happened. You keep standing and you beg forgiveness. That's the only thing that you can be done after we have done, but we have to give it up. There's Why should we keep something like this attached to something like this? We should give it up, but not to sell it to someone and get more karmic reaction, because selling it means then we are getting money. When we're getting money, that money is earned from this pair of shoes again, and that's again will bring me karmic reaction. Just give it, and then you are no more responsible for the result of that particular thing which is made of leather. So that's the only practical way I personally actually acted upon this. Um, Even it is very expensive, uh, if it is poison, will we drink it? We'll have to give it away, because we know that it'll kill our spiritual life. So therefore, we don't want to associate with it. So that's the actually that's also acting on the platform of what we just read, that particular verse, anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulasya varjanam. Anything that is coming in the way, we want to get rid of it. I hope that answers your question. There's a question by Shailesh Prabhu. I agree, Prabhuji, we have so much choice. We don't have to wear anything made of leather. Why should we gratify our senses by hurting poor animals, especially cows who give us milk? Okay, thank you. On this matter, how do we know which products made using animal skins? So we must inquire, I think, if you go to the shops, generally whatever is made of leather, they have this particular drawing or a mark on the ticket, a swing tag, which is leather. It's made of crisscross, sort of a square or a rectangle, crisscross, and then you can understand this is leather. Or we inquire if we doubt. Leather jackets, leather straps in the watches, leather shoes, some leather accessories for women. These are the only leather things generally are sold out, and leather is always expensive. So if it's too expensive, doubt it and then inquire. That's the practical way of finding out what is leather. But it's not just about leather. It's about anything and everything that comes in our way to perform Krishna consciousness. We must be able to say no to it. We must be in that situation somehow or other, get that determination through the sword of knowledge that we have to say no to it. Where it can be as subtle as eating food which is not offered to the Lord, and then we can say no to that food. It's as good as that leather for us, because it's not serving the purpose of me connecting to the eternal goal of performing Krishna consciousness activities. And in this regard, Srila Prabhupada has given a fantastic purport where it is mentioned that if we eat that food which is not offered to the Lord, it will generate material desires in our heart, and or just by doing that activity of offering it to the Lord and eating the food, we will be purifying our heart. And by that purification, because that's a sacrifice, sacrifices are required to get rains, rains give the grains, and that what to eat. Now, by this sacrifice of pleasing Lord Vishnu, by offering food to him, we will create so much of piety, and we'll create such nice nourishing cell membranes that we'll be able to pursue spiritual life very nicely. It's such an important act. So I think it's 9 o'clock, and we'll take permission now for today. Thank you very much, all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sarubhyascha kripa sindhu vayevacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for
Hare
your
Krishna.
class,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.